If you look at a nighttime satellite image of Michigan, the contrast is striking. The southern Lower Peninsula, home to cities like Detroit, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, and Lansing, glows with constant light. Highways, suburbs, universities, and factories create a bright, connected web that covers the entire region. But as you move north, that glow quickly fades. Past the center of the state, the lights collapse into darkness. The Upper Peninsula becomes a vast expanse of forest, long empty highways, and remote towns scattered across enormous counties. Some areas have fewer than 20 people per square mile, making them some of the emptiest places in the Midwest. At the same time, more than 90% of Michigan's population lives in the South. So why did one part of the state become an industrial powerhouse while the North remained quiet and lightly settled? The answer starts with the same force that shapes almost every American population map. The land itself decided the outcome long before people arrived. And if you enjoy videos like this, feel free to subscribe. 90% of Michiganders live in the southern half of the state. Michigan may look balanced on a map, but the population tells a very different story. Most residents live in the southern Lower Peninsula, an area full of major highways, farmland, universities, airports, and the highest concentration of cities in the state. Detroit dominated Michigan's population for generations, and the industrial belt around it attracted millions of workers in the 20th century. Southern Michigan has the natural advantages that historically supported settlement: a milder climate, fertile farmland, flat terrain, and access to Great Lakes shipping routes. From the earliest days, towns grew quickly in the South because it was easier to build, easier to farm, and easier to travel. Northern Michigan and the Upper Peninsula remained isolated. Rugged terrain, limited infrastructure, and harsh weather slowed permanent settlement. The further north you go, the fewer people you find. The region is not empty because it lacks beauty, but because it lacks the natural advantages that allow dense populations to form. This divide has existed since the very beginning of Michigan's history. The Upper Peninsula is almost empty by national standards. The Upper Peninsula feels like a different state entirely. It is wild, remote, and astonishingly empty. Population density across the region averages fewer than 20 people per square mile, which is comparable to rural areas of Wyoming or Idaho. Many towns are separated by long stretches of forest and road. In some counties, you can drive for nearly an hour without seeing more than a few homes. The first reason for this is physical isolation. The Straits of Mackinac separate the Upper Peninsula from the Lower Peninsula, and until the Mackinac Bridge opened in 1957, it was extremely difficult to travel between the two regions. To the north and east stretch the vast coastlines of Lake Superior and Lake Michigan. The interior is filled with forest, wetlands, and rugged elevation changes that make large-scale settlement difficult. The second reason is economic. The region never developed major urban centers. Mining towns once boomed with thousands of workers, but those were temporary. When the mines closed, people moved on. The Upper Peninsula never gained the type of diversified economic base that southern Michigan built over a century. The result is a region that remains breathtakingly beautiful, but almost as empty today as it was 150 years ago. Harsh winters push people away from the north. Northern Michigan's climate is one of the strongest forces shaping the state's population. The combination of cold air from Canada and moisture from the Great Lakes produces brutal winters, especially along the Lake Superior shoreline. The Upper Peninsula often receives more than 200 inches of snow per year. Some places, such as the Keweenaw Peninsula, receive more than 250 inches. Heavy lake effect storms, whiteouts, and weeks of sub-zero temperatures make daily life far more difficult. Heating bills are significantly higher in the north than in the south. Roads require constant maintenance. Roofs often need reinforcement to support snow loads. Commuting becomes unpredictable and dangerous. Long winters shorten the growing season by more than a month compared to southern Michigan. These conditions make permanent, large-scale settlement much harder. Tourism thrives in the summer, but many people do not want to face Upper Peninsula winters year-round. When you combine harsh climate with limited economic opportunities, it becomes clear why the North remains sparsely populated. Climate did not just shape the North, it actively pushed people south. Southern Michigan has the best farmland. The southern half of the Lower Peninsula is blessed with fertile soils that early settlers immediately recognized as ideal farmland. Glacial deposits and river systems left behind deep, productive loam that supported crops such as wheat, corn, fruit, and livestock. In contrast, much of northern Michigan and the Upper Peninsula is defined by rocky, sandy, or acidic soils, as well as dense forests and wetlands. Clearing this land for farming required enormous effort, and even then, crop yields were often low. Because southern farmland was productive and profitable, towns and cities formed naturally around agriculture. Local markets supported merchants, schools, churches, railroads, and industries. By the time northern lands were being logged or mined, the South already had stable communities and a strong economic foundation. Southern Michigan's agricultural success helped establish the region as the core of Michigan's population. Detroit, Ann Arbor, and Grand Rapids form a huge job magnet. Jobs attract people, and southern Michigan contains nearly all of the state's major employment centers. Detroit became the center of the global automotive industry, drawing millions of workers from the United States and around the world. Ann Arbor developed into a world-class university and research hub. Grand Rapids evolved into a major center for manufacturing, healthcare, furniture production, and technology. Lansing grew as both the state's political capital and home to a major university. These cities created a powerful cycle. Jobs attracted people, people attracted investment, and investment created even more jobs. Northern Michigan simply could not replicate this cycle. Limited infrastructure, smaller towns, harsh winters, and fewer large employers meant the economic pull was always toward the south. For anyone seeking opportunity, southern Michigan became the clear destination. Northern Michigan depends on visitors, not residents. Southern Michigan is built on industry, but northern Michigan is built on tourism. The north thrives on cabins, cottages, snowmobiling, fishing, ski resorts, state parks, and Great Lakes beaches. Millions of residents from the south vacation there every year. However, tourism does not translate into permanent population growth. Seasonal jobs do not provide stable, year-round income. Many restaurants and shops close during the winter. Housing markets often prioritize vacation rentals over long-term living. Wages in tourism tend to be lower, which encourages young people to move south for better opportunities. Northern Michigan is beloved, visited, and photographed, but it is not densely populated because its economy is seasonal rather than permanent. The Upper Peninsula never became a typical consumer economy. Daily life functions very differently in the Upper Peninsula than in southern Michigan. The region has very few large retail centers, office districts, or suburban corridors. Instead of malls, corporate chains, and dense shopping districts, residents rely on small local stores spread across long distances. This pattern comes from history. The Upper Peninsula never developed large cities or suburban belts. Retail and service industries cannot survive without a strong population base, and in the north, that base never formed. Everyday conveniences such as hospitals, entertainment venues, and specialty shops often require long drives. In a world where people expect short commutes and nearby services, the Upper Peninsula remained rural because it never reached the population threshold needed to support a modern, year-round consumer economy. Resource extraction did not create large, long-term cities. Northern Michigan and the Upper Peninsula were shaped by industries that burn bright and then fade. Logging, copper mining, and iron mining once created booming towns filled with thousands of workers. In the late 1800s, copper country was among the wealthiest regions in the United States. But extractive industries require land, equipment, and capital more than they require permanent populations. When the resources declined, the jobs disappeared and the workers moved. Modern mining and forestry require far fewer employees than in the past. Unlike cities built on manufacturing, technology, finance, or education, resource towns rarely diversify enough to survive long-term. When the mines closed and the forests were depleted, northern towns began shrinking rather than growing. The north was built on resources, not people, and when the resources disappeared, many of the people did too. Infrastructure determines which places grow and which places stagnate. In Michigan, nearly all major transportation networks favored the south. Railroads in the 19th century connected Detroit, Lansing, Flint, Grand Rapids, and Jackson to Chicago, Toledo, and Cleveland. These rail networks carried people, goods, and raw materials efficiently, allowing southern cities to become industrial centers. The north received rail lines mainly to serve mining and logging operations, And once those industries declined, many northern railroads disappeared. Highways reinforced the pattern. Interstate 94, Interstate 96, and Interstate 75 all converge in southern Michigan, linking the region to national transportation systems. Northern Michigan has fewer major highways, fewer airports, and longer travel times between towns, which slows economic development. Transportation infrastructure concentrated opportunity in the south and left the north increasingly remote. Southern Michigan sits on the Midwest's main trade routes. The southern Lower Peninsula sits on some of the most important trade routes in North America. It is positioned between Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, and Toronto, which makes it part of the continent's industrial and commercial heart. Major employers want access to rail hubs, ports, interstate highways, and large labor pools. Southern Michigan offers all of these advantages. Northern Michigan is too far from these major trade corridors, and the Upper Peninsula is separated by water on two sides. This geography makes southern Michigan the natural home for logistics hubs, manufacturing centers, corporate headquarters, and international investment. The North lacks these advantages, which is why large employers overwhelmingly choose the South. Northern Michigan has Rust Belt problems without big city benefits. Many northern towns experienced industrial decline similar to other parts of the Midwest, but without the same ability to recover. Smaller northern cities did not have diversified economies or large populations to cushion the blow when factories closed. When a paper mill shut down or a plant downsized, the local economy often collapsed entirely. These towns lacked the universities, tech sectors, and financial institutions that helped cities like Detroit, Ann Arbor, and Grand Rapids reinvent themselves. Northern Michigan absorbed the economic losses of the Rust Belt, but did not receive the benefits of urban scale. The result is long-term stagnation or slow decline. Remote work helped a little, but not enough. The remote work boom in the early 2020s brought some new residents to the north. People moved to enjoy lower housing costs, forests, lakes, and quieter communities. Areas such as Traverse City experienced growth. However, remote work did not reverse larger trends. Many northern counties still face declining populations because of limited medical services, inconsistent broadband, long travel distances, and few year-round jobs. A handful of remote workers cannot replace the tens of thousands of jobs once provided by mining, manufacturing, and logging. The North gained some new residents, but not enough to rival the South's growth. Young people move south for jobs and amenities. Generation after generation, young people leave northern Michigan and the Upper Peninsula to study or work in southern cities. A teenager may grow up in the north, graduate high school, and then move to Michigan State University, the University of Michigan, Grand Valley State University, Wayne State University, or another southern institution. After graduation, they find jobs in Detroit, Ann Arbor, Lansing, or Grand Rapids. Most never return north because the opportunities, wages, nightlife, and cultural amenities are overwhelmingly concentrated in the South. Over time, this creates demographic drift. The North grows older, and the South grows younger and more populated. Tourism and second homes do not increase permanent population. In the summer, northern lake towns feel crowded. Restaurants fill up, marinas overflow, hotels run at full occupancy, but most of this activity is seasonal. Many cottages sit empty from autumn through spring. Second homes add money to local economies, but they do not increase year-round population. They do not add permanent students, workers, or long-term tax bases. Summer crowds do not create the stability needed for large hospitals, malls, or industrial employers. The North booms for a few months, then quiets again for most of the year. Policy can nudge, but geography still wins. Michigan has invested heavily in northern communities through tax incentives, infrastructure projects, broadband expansion, and tourism promotion. These efforts help, but they cannot overcome the fundamental geographic forces shaping the state. Southern Michigan has a better climate, richer soil, stronger transportation networks, major cities, universities, and most of the state's industries. Its advantages are structural, not temporary. Northern Michigan's beauty is unmatched, but beauty alone does not produce large populations without accompanying opportunities, infrastructure, and economic foundations. Geography drew a line through Michigan long before the first person arrived. History widened it, economics reinforced it, And today, the divide remains exactly as visible as the map itself.